letting everyone in. Let's see. Can everyone hear me all right? There are more people here than I expected. Okay, that was everybody who's in the waiting room. Can everyone hear me all right? Yes, okay. All right. Wait another minute just to see if anyone else shows up, and then we'll get started. Hello. Glad to see everyone here. Yes, absolutely. Welcome, welcome everyone. Okay, I have never hosted a Zoom meeting before, so let me know if anything like looks wrong or any suggestions, that kind of thing. Just make sure to raise your hand first or send it in the chat. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started now. I'd like to start off by saying that while we were in my class, it's very important to show respect. Refer to me as ma'am, as I'm your teacher, and as my student, you will show respect to your classmates in all interactions and to all your opponents. If you are disrespectful, I will ask you to leave. Raise your hand before asking any questions. This is a serious practice. To start, we will be breathing. Breathe deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth. Again. Sit or stand up with your back straight and extend your right arm out in front of you and use your left hand to hold your fingers back towards your wrist, like so. This is our first stretch, and we'll hold this position for about 30 seconds. Keep breathing deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth. Try to keep your body relaxed. Your body is a very important part. We'll switch, rotate your wrist and pull your fingers in the other direction. It shouldn't hurt. It should just feel like enough that you're getting a little bit stretched. Keep your hands loose. Okay, now shake it off. And we'll go ahead and do our left hand. Now, first question, when should you be stretching? Anyone raise your hand if you have an answer? Yep, go ahead and unmute yourself and give an answer. Logan.
Before and after playing?
Yep,
Before and
those
after?
are definitely very good times to be stretching. You can also stretch anytime while you're doing really anything. The best time to be stretching is whenever you can, so all the time. Before sets, very important to make sure that you're going in and you're loose and you don't get yourself hurt. Okay, so with your left hand, switch. Should probably have gotten most of that stretched out by now. All right, open up melee if you haven't opened up melee yet, and get your controller out. Go ahead and navigate to the single player mode menu, 1P mode, and go to the event matches. We're going to go ahead and go to event match number 11, which is King of the Mountain, and pick the character that you use the most. As you can see from the description, ice climbers protect their turf, and your goal is to survive. I will give you the additional goal of surviving without using any attacks or items. If you get hit, pause the game and use the Z button to start over. If you use an attack, start over. Keep your hands loose, your movement clean, and end the match at 0%. You may begin. Send me a Zoom message if you finish. Movement is very important for this exercise because you can't be using any attacks. You have to feel the motion of the ice climbers, where it is that they're trying to go, and figure out how to dodge. I am not able to find a gecko code that unlocks all of the event matches, but should be able to in 20 seconds. Okay, you made it through. Let's see. So as you attempt to do this and think it through without dodging, you'll probably notice that a lot of the time you can end up getting hit in situations that you weren't expecting. For example, if you were focusing on something else, like focusing on how the stage was moving or how your own character's movement looked. It can also be difficult to do it because a lot of your instincts are going to be based around using attacks to protect yourself, and using movement to protect yourself can be a less intuitive idea. Money, as you've completed it, go ahead and try doing it again with more of a focus on your movement and your breathing as you do it. Focus on breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, and try to eliminate any tension from your body while keeping your movement clean. No attacks includes attacks for recovery or attacks that move you around, by the way. So no up Bs, side Bs, anything of the sort. You can air dodge, you can pivot, wave dash, no drop. Has anyone else completed it successfully yet? And does anyone have any questions? Are you having any difficulties with anything in specific? So, Raikin, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask whatever your question is.
So should I focus on my movement, like mainly, or should I focus on other stuff in this event?
I would say to focus on your movement. This is meant to be an exercise that generalizes out to other sections. So it's about being able to focus on one goal. You can be dodging, and another goal, keeping your movement clean, keeping your body relaxed, keeping your breathing fluid, and keeping your movement fluid along with it. It's about maintaining a universal rhythm. The 11th event match is available in 20XX if you have 20XX, but I did specifically mention that you will need to have all event matches unlocked for this class. So like, as I'm going through and doing this, what I'm trying to focus on is not only dodging the attacks of the ice climbers, but trying to stay relatively close to the ice climbers, because that's something that I found lacking in my own gameplay, that I tend to spend a lot of time across the stage from them. So if I get close, I can have more options. Yeah, I am also doing it on my local netplay setup because it is more convenient for the position I'm in. You may also be able to realize that as you move around, you can bait the ice climbers by getting close to them or getting above them. If you get above them, they like to up B. The CPUs are also likely a little bit harder on 20XX. But that shouldn't affect it altogether too much. There are many different things you can try focusing on when you play. You can focus on the movement of your opponents, in this case, the CPUs. You can focus on the movement of the stage. You can focus on your own character, but anything that you choose to focus on will lower your ability to focus on other things. What matters more than focusing on the right things is being really focused in whatever it is that you decide to focus on. Because Melee is a game of certainty and uncertainty. You have to move as if all of your movements are intentional if you want to be able to dodge everything. If you look like you're making a mistake, it means you're pausing. And when you pause, you get hit. You have to move quickly and confidently. There are many different ways to maintain your internal rhythm. One of the main ways that I suggest is breathing, because you can breathe anywhere. It's useful to practice breathing anywhere. It slows down your internal rhythm and allows you to control yourself better and therefore control your character better. How's everyone else doing? Any questions on this exercise? Any specific things that you're having difficulty with? Just had a few people join the meeting, so I will go back over some of the stuff that I mentioned at the start. Right now, we are practicing event match 11 with the character that you use the most, your main. And the goal is to survive without using any attacks or items. If you get hit, pause the game and use the Z button to start over. If you use an attack, start over. Focus on keeping your hands loose and your movement clean and end the match at 0%. You can also focus as you play on your grip on your controller. If you're tense, you'll be like ice. You look strong, but you shatter at the slightest impact. If you already grip your controller tightly, now is your chance to practice holding it gently. Your controller, like your character and like the game, are an extension of yourself. Go ahead and unmute yourself in a minute.
So my question was related to using. So 3 times I've gone under 10 seconds and died to Caesar.
Mhm.
Aggroing me from across the stage. I was just kind of curious as to what your thoughts are on like that sort of thing happening. So like not reacting to basically a projectile that just targets you.
So what sticks out to me the most, what I hear about that first, is that it's always happening in the last 10 seconds that you notice it. And I think this is something that applies to a lot of people who play Melee, especially in tournament situations, that you see the timer getting low and you start to get nervous and you can feel the anxiety in your body. And this is when it becomes most important to focus on your breathing and try to maintain your flow. Because if you look too hard at what's happening on the screen, or you think too hard about the way that you're breathing, if you think too hard about anything, you lose your flow and you're a lot more likely to get hit by something that you would have shielded or dodged applicably in the first 45, 50 seconds of the game. In tournament situations, this comes up on last stock most frequently. Last stock of a certain game, or if you can feel yourself about to make a comeback. You think about a variety of things, none of which are actually involved with the goal that you're trying to accomplish. So in those tense situations, I focus on my breathing and I try to go back to whatever it was that I decided to focus on at the start of the game, usually my movement or watching my opponent. For those of you who have completed the event, you can go back and try to complete the event again, still with your main, and try shifting what you focus on and see how it affects your gameplay. See if there's anything that you can focus on that makes your gameplay cleaner than other things. But don't focus too hard because then you won't be able to complete the task. Too hard, I should say. For those of you who joined after we started, we're doing event match 11, in which you try to dodge the ice climbers. You are not permitted to use any attacks or any items. The goal is to survive for the full minute and 2 seconds without getting hit. Try to keep your movement fast. Imagine that you're playing in an actual tournament set and that you're trying to intimidate your opponent with your movement. You have to show them that there's a reason to be afraid of you, otherwise they will never be afraid of you. John, if you didn't hear, it is event match 11. As you go about this event, you may be noticing that your movement is a lot less smooth than you would like, or that you have certain habits. Sometimes I notice myself starting to shield drop up air off of shield drops instinctively, forgetting that I'm not allowed to use attacks, or I'll find myself up being to try to get higher. Melee is a game where it's very difficult to focus on the things that are actually important. A lot of your losses and times that you lose neutral will be because you forgot what it was that you were supposed to be thinking about, and you only remember it after the situation occurs. This is why this is a useful event to practice in. It allows you to practice skills that will allow you to maintain your composure better in tense tournament situations. Because there is a lot of tension in this event. There's a timer constantly counting down and the ice climbers chasing you around all the time. It's pretty similar to a tournament experience. Now you can see, even for something that is just in the default version of Melee, this is a pretty difficult challenge to do without using attacks or items. There are a lot of useful things that you can do in Melee to train yourself like this, by playing single player modes and playing with items on, playing with people in other modes. it trains a different set of skills as long as you try to think about it in a productive manner. It also teaches you discipline because you just have to keep trying over and over again, even when you fail, even when you get hit in the last 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and I got one. Good, looks like we've got a few people. If you have completed, you can go ahead and move on to the next exercise if you like. The next exercise is going to adventure mode. Select your main, select very hard, and lower yourself to 1 stock. The challenge is to make it to Yoshi without using any attacks or touching any enemies. If you use an item, attack, or touch an enemy, start over. No. Part of the difficulty of this is figuring out how to get close to the enemies without touching them, which is very applicable to tournament melee. You have to be able to control your character very well to perform either of these exercises successfully. Yes. Nathaniel, have you completed the first exercise, the Ice Climbers event match? Okay. Go to adventure mode, pick your main, select very hard, and lower yourself to 1 stock. The goal is to make it to the Yoshis without using any attacks or touching any enemies. If you use an item, attack, or touch an enemy, start over. Now, since we have people doing multiple different challenges, I would like to remind everyone that there's only one challenge that you ever need to think about, and it is the challenge in front of you. Too easy with Peach. Were you attacking the Ice Climbers? You're not allowed to attack the Ice Climbers. I feel like it would actually be more difficult with Peach because of her slow double jump. Paracoopers are quite demonic. Adventure mode. Gotcha. So once you've made it to the Yoshis, I would say try to fight them, but there's not a whole lot of strategy to be employed there. So I think I'll just open it up for questions. Does anyone have any questions about the exercises that we've done so far, or just any general other questions? Raikin has his hand raised. Go ahead and talk.
Okay, so I made it to Yoshi's, but I felt like my movement was kind of off. Like sometimes I should have that, especially in the last part where there were like a lot of Koopas. Like I had to use like all my resources to get to like the end, like the 3 platforms before Yoshi's, which I exhausted like all my resources, like my double jump and my air dodge. So I don't. So if I wanted to do it again, should I just try to do it faster or use as less resources as possible?
Anything that you think would be useful. I personally think probably more useful would be trying to do it faster and thinking about what it is that you're actually thinking about as you do it. What are you focusing on? See if you can shift your focus to different positions on the screen while maintaining your flow. See if you can focus on different aspects of your movement. See if you can use different movement patterns. It's about putting restrictions on yourself, because the restrictions breed creativity, and practicing in uncomfortable situations where you can feel the pressure of being about to die at any time. For example, how many of you have been getting up close to the enemies and then shielding them, light shielding even, and then waiting for them to go away? See if you can come up with new ideas. How many wall jumps have you been using? Has anyone noticed any moments in particular where they feel like a lot of tension, like they start to get nervous or anything of that sort? Okay. What situations in particular are you noticing that you feel nervousness? Like when you get close to an enemy, or if you notice your own movement is messed up, stuff like that? One of the directions that you can shift your focus towards is that you can focus on what you're going to do when you get close to your enemy. If you take the situation head on, it's difficult to be as fearful about it. So if you purposely place yourself close to the ice climbers or the Koopas or Goombas in adventure mode, you can confront your fear in a way and prepare yourself for the fact that they may be able to attack you. Fear is a mental battle with yourself. It can be influenced by the outside, but whenever you fear something and allow it to control you, that is a consensual act you are performing, that you are allowing to happen. Fear is a natural response, but allowing it to affect you is a decision. You can practice calmness and breathing in situations like this, and it will help you keep your cool. No. No special moves. Just movement patterns that like any character could do. So jumping, wave dashing, rolling, spot dodging, shielding, hitting, shield dropping. Is there anyone who has successfully finished both exercises? I know Logan did, and Chris did. Okay. Go ahead and proceed into training mode if you have finished both exercises. Select your character and then select Falco. Try to move Falco into a position where he is underneath the center of the right platform. And practice your movement, move around the stage, move on platforms, move on ledge. Just try to keep it as fluid as you can. Now think about if the Falco were an actual opponent. He's facing you. This is called shadow boxing. So use your movement to get close to the Falco. Imagine it's a real Falco shooting a laser or something like that, and then see what your what your intuitive reaction is. What is it that you want to do? Because this is your habit. This is what you will actually do when you're put in this position of pressure in a match. Like when I get close to Falco and I imagine him jumping towards me, I instinctively want to dash back and pivot grab. And this is something that has won me a lot of sets and lost me a lot of sets. But the fact that it's a habit is very important information because that means it's something my opponents can more easily take advantage of. So to modify my habit, what I would do is instead, the next time that I believe the situation is going to arise, I get close to Falco and I think he's probably going to jump at me. Instead of pivot grabbing, I have mentally prepared myself to do something else. Jump at him perhaps, or place an up tilt for him to run into. But notice how when you think you have an actual opponent, likely your movement is incredibly different than the movement that you use when you are just moving around the stage. I notice this when I watch almost every player. Their movement between stocks is very different from the movement when they're trying to fight. This movement being different signals to your opponent your intent. Intelligent players will use it to make educated predictions on what you're going to do, and intuitive players will use it to crush you in negative situations. So you have to focus on keeping one movement through all of your actions, one smooth motion. And this way it will not be as obvious what you're thinking. Focus on changing the rhythms of your movement, getting to various places in slow and quick manners. Chain things together, like shield dropping through a platform and then dashing back to ledge, and then ledge dashing. Or any part of that sequence, depending on how fluid you are with your movement. The goal is to have as little dead space as possible. And also make sure that you are focusing on the breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, and that you're keeping your body loose. While trying to move around, it can be very easy to tense up, and this can cause significant hand issues. And it also gives you less control. There is also the fact that focusing on all of these things, your breathing and the motion of your character, the ranges that you occupy relative to your opponent's character, focusing on all of these things means that you can't focus on things that are happening outside of the game because your brain doesn't have enough space to consciously be processing it as well. The sounds of other people will start to fade away as you focus in on all of these factors, like your breathing, movement of your character, the fluidity of your motion, and feeling the rhythm in your body. There are things that you can do to reduce outside distractions, like wearing noise-canceling headphones or listening to music, that sort of thing. But these are all kind of just bandages on the underlying issue itself, which is the distractibility of the players who are playing the game, the inability to focus on what it is that is most relevant. But this is something that you can practice and something that can get better with discipline by performing exercises like these. After adventure mode, go into training mode and place Falco underneath one of the side platforms, face towards him, and then practice your neutral movement towards him. And then imagine that he's picking some kind of option. Just sort of throw one out in your mind, like, oh, he's naring at me. And then think, if I were in a match and I thought he was going to nair at me, what would I do? And I realized that I would pivot grab. A lot of people would probably try to put out an attack to try to dodge it. But this is a scramble situation. And what matters is that you figure out what your own habit is and practice doing other things instead of the thing that's your habit. Your habit probably exists for a reason. It probably got you a lot of wins when you were a lower level player, or it beat something that your friend liked to do. But recognizing your habits and being able to shift them is an incredibly important part of being a strong player. One of my main habits that I noticed recently is the habit of holding tension in my body. When I hold tension in my body, my tech skill gets worse. I can feel the anxiety in my chest, and I can feel my heart beating more rapidly. And I watch as my character drops tech skill and the match slips out of my control. But you can't control the match, and you can't control the opponent. What you can control is yourself. You can control your own movement by controlling your breathing. You can control your breathing by controlling your focus. And it all comes back down. Most importantly, you will need to practice things like this as consistently as you can. Thinking critically about various gameplay situations and trying to improve your instincts. Figuring out what your instincts are so that you can find the ways that they lack. And practicing them with a non-judgmental eye in a loose and fluid manner. You do not want defeating your opponents to be a difficult action. It should be the easiest thing in the world. You should be able to look casual while you do it. You should be able to focus on anything that you like while you do it. And practicing these things is the way that you get there. This is how you dominate an opponent, by being perfectly in flow. All right, we only have about 3 minutes left before the meeting ends. So if anyone has any final questions, now is your chance to ask them. And of course, if you notice yourself getting frustrated or confused as you work through any of these exercises or any other exercises, the most important thing you can remember is your breathing. Slow your body's rhythm and your mind's rhythm will slow with it. I've looked through the rest of the event matches and I haven't come up with many ways that they can be very useful. Uncle Punch events are very useful. I found this one to be, event match 11 has like the clearest ways that it applies to other things, so. But you can very easily come up with challenges like this for yourself or read through the Melee library. There are a lot of things written like this in there. Meleelibrary.com. This is kind of what people used to have to do in the old days before we had stuff like 20xx and all these things. All of these tools make it easier for you to improve, but they also make it harder because you aren't as used to figuring out things on your own. Yes, I do. I can send it to you after. We have 1 minute left. Any other final questions? All right, if not, thanks everyone for coming. If the reception is positive, then I will be sure to do something like this again. I have plenty of ideas for things like this that should be pretty helpful for people. If you found it helpful at all, then feel free to reach out or anything like that. Thank you. Yep. Sounds good. Okay, thanks for watching, everyone. I will be back with another one shortly, I'm sure.